Hello, everyone, and welcome to our today's session. We are very happy to welcome you to the last webinar that we have for April. And I'm more than sure that many of you already had the opportunity to see the webinars that we are planning for May. So go on our website and find more information on that. My name is Alina, and I'm an Education USA Advisors, and I'm representing Education USA Virtual, the website, the platform that would help you navigate through your process of application. So if you are now currently in your research process for your applications for your undergraduate or graduate studies, you should know that you can get our help and you can get useful webinars on interesting topics that would ease your path. And I would like to remind you guys that we are having a great program available for students who want to apply for their postgraduate degree. So if you are a student that is currently doing his bachelor degree in the third or fourth year, or you are in your gap year, you should know that you are eligible for this program. And I highly recommend you to scan this QR code that is now on the screen so you can find more information about how wonderful this program is, which is also free for you. So please access that. Find out how useful that is going to be for your preparation process. And as you know, we are always doing interesting webinars, interesting topics. And our today's topic is going to be about how to explore the opportunities after the graduation. And our invitee for today is Rebecca Kehe. She's the Director of International Student Services at the University of Mary-Hardin Baylor. So thank you, Rebecca, very much for joining our today's event and for being a speaker. I would just give you the floor to introduce yourself, and then we can proceed to the presentation. And I would like you to remind you guys that you have the chat box here available. So if you have some questions, please feel free to address them. We would also focus on the question that we've got in advance, but you are more than welcome to submit your question in case if some of them will appear during the presentation.
All right, thank you, Alina. So as Alina mentioned, my name is Rebecca Kehe. I'm the Director of International Student Services at the University of Mary-Hardin Baylor. So in my experience working with international students and what I do at the university now, I've worked with students from the time that you first apply all the way through your studies and then on to OPT. So we'll be talking a little bit about those opportunities after graduation, what those options look like, and some of the things that you'll need to keep in mind as you prepare for those kind of tail end portions of your studies. Granted, you're just beginning the search process now, but we're going to be talking a lot about what happens there at the very end. So you'll see kind of a breakdown of what we'll be talking about, and we'll go ahead and first start by looking at what the resources will be at the university that you study at. So we can go to the next slide. So in preparing for post-graduation and what you're planning to do post-graduation, it really starts while you're still in university. While you're at university, of course, you are studying the subject that you are getting a specialization in, and that is a huge part of your university experience. But universities have a lot of other resources that they provide to students and other opportunities that will help bolster your resume or help kind of prepare you for your specific field. Especially if you're looking in the United States, they will be experts in terms of being able to pair you with the types of experiences or the types of knowledge that you would need in order to move forward in your career in the United States. So we're going to kind of break down these different components while at a university in the next couple of slides, but just be kind of aware that there are things that you'll be doing while you're studying, and then there'll be things that you'll be preparing for post-graduation. So we'll first start with campus resources on the next slide. So your university is going to have several different offices that are going to provide different types of support and resources while you're at a university. And you'll want to kind of know who they are, especially if you are planning to go on and apply for OPT, or if you're planning to go on to postgraduate study or a doctoral program. So every university will have a registrar, and you'll hear this term at every school. They don't really change that name too much, but they are the ones who issue your transcripts and maintain your academic records. They're the ones who will reach out to you when you're getting ready to graduate to issue your diploma. So you'll want to know who they are and their contact points, because as you go on and apply, like for STEM OPT, for example, you would probably need to upload a copy of your transcript for that application. If you're going on to medical school or law school, they will also need your transcripts from their registrar. The bursar's office is going to be the office that issues your tuition and fee bills. And then financial aid will maintain any scholarships that you have at the university. So these two kind of work hand in hand in terms of helping with the financial aspects while you're at the university. The tutoring and writing labs will also be a great resource if you need support on the academic side. And then your academic advisor is going to be a key point of contact for you throughout your studies. A lot of times, if you're applying for a master's program, your academic advisor is going to be a faculty member. If you're looking at a bachelor's degree, it'll probably be a professional staff member. But these individuals are experts within that specific field of study in the US. And so they are a really good resource in terms of if you're looking at further study in your field of study and you're trying to kind of narrow down what universities might have my specialization in a doctoral degree or a master's degree. A lot of these academic advisors have resources and information, or maybe friends and colleagues who work at other institutions that may have those specializations that they can help kind of direct you into the right direction in terms of giving you advice on what your next steps will look like after graduation. They'll also be a good point of contact in terms of helping provide advice in terms of how to prepare your applications for those postgraduate programs or opportunities. We'll go to the next slide. The career services office at the university that you attend is going to be your best friend, and you'll want to connect with them as early as possible. Even if you are in your first semester and you're thinking, I'm not looking for an internship or an OPT for another couple of years, the career services office is a resource that is available for you from the time that you start at that university all the way until even after you graduate. So career service offices at a university will provide support for alumni of that university in terms of providing career counseling. So it's great to be able to start utilizing those free resources from them from day one. Take your resume and your cover letter in as you currently have it, and they'll take a look at it and let you know that based on things in your current field or information that you're providing may not align with what it would need to from a US cultural standpoint for careers. So they'll help make those modifications for you accordingly. Like, for example, in the United States, you don't put your age on a resume or a cover letter because there are discrimination laws that are supposed to prevent different employers from discriminating based on age. And so when people put an age on a resume, it puts the companies in a really kind of tricky spot where they're not allowed to really look at it, but also it's there. And so those are types of things that, or like a picture or your gender, those things are not listed on resumes in the United States. So they'll help take a look at what you currently have and provide kind of an updated or recommendations on how to update your resume. They also will do career counseling. So one resource that will be really helpful in your first semester or your first year of study is to do kind of an interest calculator. So a lot of career offices will have this resource where they'll take a look at, are you an introvert versus an extrovert? Do you like working with a team, or do you like working on projects on your own? Do you like to have specific tasks to do, or do you like to have more kind of concepts versus tangible things to work on and kind of build from those concepts? And they'll kind of take a look and see within the field that you're studying, what are the type of careers that might be a good fit for you within that field, or if the area that you're studying is completely different from the types of attributes that make who you are. They may help kind of give recommendations on how to adjust what you're studying so that way it aligns better with what your career goals and your career outcomes would look like. They also do mock interviews, which is a really helpful tool just to kind of have information on what the interview process looks like within your field of study. Different career fields will have slightly different interview processes. There's some things that are very much the same, but there are some things that are slightly different, and your career service office will have information about those nuances and provide some advice and recommendations on how to work through those different areas of an interview process. A lot of career service offices will also have large and small career events throughout the year. So most universities will have one or two really large career fairs where they will bring 100 to 200 employers to come and meet with students about internship opportunities or post-graduation opportunities. Go to every event, even in your first semester. One of the really kind of helpful things that I've had a career service advisor tell me to recommend to students is take whatever resume that you have prepared at that time, even in your first semester, meet with some of the different career counselors for these different companies at a career fair, show them the resume and ask them, based upon what you see here in my resume, what are some things that I can improve on or grow on? What can I learn? Or what other experiences would you want to see for me to be a more attractive candidate in the future? And these different employer recruiters, they're very blunt and honest, and they'll tell you, I want to see more experiences where you're working with a team, whether it's in a class or if it's in a volunteer experience or an on campus job, or I want to see this specific specialization in IT or cybersecurity or whatnot for you to be a really attractive candidate for my company. And those pieces of feedback will be really helpful for you as you then go through the rest of your studies and all of your experiences at the university to be able to build your resume in the way that those employers provided feedback of what they're looking for. A lot of universities will have a handshake network. This is a online tool that most universities have now as a career resource guide. So a lot of universities will have their on-campus jobs posted there, kind of like an Indeed board or like a LinkedIn job board. A lot of universities will also have all of their different employer connections that will post jobs there too in a separate category. So there'll be an area for on-campus jobs, an area for internships, and then an area that is looking for graduates for post-graduation employment. So definitely get access to that as early as possible while you're studying. Kind of look and see what's going on within those different networks. And especially if you're looking for an on-campus job, utilize that resource as early as possible. A lot of career services offices also offer their resources in person and virtual. So even as you graduate and go on to OPT, if you want someone to look over a resume or provide some advice in terms of how to best prepare for a specific interview, that is what this resource is for at a university. It's free for you while you're in school and even after you graduate. We'll go to our next slide. So after you graduate, if you are planning to go on to a graduate program and you're looking for a pre-professional type of degree, so if you're looking to go to medical school, dentistry school, anything that you see on the list here, universities have a pre-professional advisor at their university. This is a specialty advisor. This is different from an academic advisor. So your academic advisor is there to help provide advice in terms of how to finish your major and get all the coursework done to graduate. Your pre-professional advisor is an advisor that is preparing for that next step after graduation. So how to best apply for medical school, how to best get all the prerequisites done for pharmacy school, when is it the best time to take your LSAT for law school. So they will be the ones who will help you narrow down what is the next school that you'll be going to for this higher degree after you finish your pre-dentistry program or your pre-physical therapy program. They'll make sure that you get your applications in, narrow down the schools that have the specializations that you're looking for, prepare any exams, and have all the prerequisites done in order to qualify to join that specific degree program. So if you are looking to go into one of these types of fields, you will want to connect with that pre-professional advisor as early as possible. Start talking through what you're looking for, what goals you have. Keep in touch with them throughout your program that you're currently in, because they are a free resource that is there for you to make sure that you are successful in moving into that next field of study. We'll go to the next slide. So the international office at your university is going to have a DSO. The DSO is a designated school official who is there to provide advice on your visa status on your I-20 and provide guidance in terms of other types of authorization. So anytime that there's any change to your degree program, if you need more time to study, they are going to provide those I-20 updates. They will also issue any authorization letters for on-campus employment for you to be able to apply for a social security card. You have to have a social security card before you start working, and they will need to write a letter and provide some documentation to Social Security so that way you can get that card and start working on campus. They will also be your point of contact in terms of getting any type of CPT authorization, which is internship work authorization while you're in school. And then if you are looking to do OPT after you graduate, they will help you in terms of issuing the OPT I-20 and helping you prepare your application for OPT, which is the post-graduation work authorization, and then the STEM OPT, which follows the initial OPT for STEM designated majors. We'll go to the next slide. So with internships, if you are coming on an F1 visa, you'll be utilizing curricular practical training, which is CPT. This is an authorization that can be issued part-time during a fall and spring, and then during the summer, it could be part-time or full-time, depending on the nature of what your academic advisor recommends and your faculty members recommend and what the internship is looking for. For J1 students, this is an academic training program, which is a slightly different authorization, but it's quite similar in how the application process goes. With CPT or academic training, you'll want to connect with your DSO and your faculty members and the internship coordinator as soon as you start kind of aligning those three individuals together. For these, you do have to have some type of academic component, whether it is internship credit or some other type of graduation requirement that necessitates an internship, and you do have to have an offer from an internship in your field of study at the time that you apply. We'll go to the next slide. So you've now gone through university and you've utilized all of your career service resources. You've been connected with your international advisor and worked on campus and had all these wonderful experiences. Now you're preparing to graduate and you're planning to go on to a medical degree or a law degree, whether that's pharmacy, veterinary, law school, all those types of things. What are the things that you'll need to keep in mind? As you go through your last year of university, you're going to want to work very closely with your pre-professional advisor. At that point, you'll be taking any entrance exams and starting any applications, as most of these programs, since they are so specialized, their deadlines could be as early as 8 or 9 months before you end up entering that university. And so you're going to want to work very closely with your advisor to make sure you don't miss any deadlines for any of the schools that you're targeting for your continued studies. You'll want to make sure that you're finishing any last prerequisite courses in that last year. So if there's anything that's still missing that you need to take, you'll want to make sure that you take that and receive the letter grades that they're wanting in order to qualify you for their program. You'll probably have already taken any entrance exam that you needed, but if you hadn't taken it or you were planning to retake it, you would want to take that at least in like your fall semester if you are graduating in May. And then you'll want to submit your applications for any early decisions and as well as any types of scholarships or fellowships. A lot of these types of programs for any type of funding, they are going to require very early applications so that way they can get those all reviewed and then have a good candidate pool for them to determine who to provide funding to. We'll go to our next slide. If you're looking to go on to a different type of master's or doctorate program, like an MBA or a master's in education or a doctorate program in information technology, The steps are similar, but it's also slightly different. You'll be working mostly with your academic advisor instead of a pre-professional advisor, as your academic advisor within these specific fields will be kind of there to provide guidance as you're preparing these applications. You'll want to check and see if there's any prerequisite courses for the program that you're planning to apply it to further. A lot of times, what happens with other graduate programs is that they want to see that you've received a degree in a specific area. So, for example, if you're looking to do a master's or a doctorate in counseling or mental health counseling, they're going to want to see that you've done a bachelor's degree in some field of psychology, or some other social science with a certain amount of psychology courses completed. So, depending on the program that you're applying for, they may ask for specific coursework, or they may ask for a specific degree. Or in some cases, like with many MBAs, they just want to see that you have finished a bachelor's degree and that you have maybe one or two statistics or other business type of courses that are completed in order to be best prepared to go on to further technical business studies. You'll want to also prepare any entrance exam that is required by that specific school. So there are many schools that have gone GMAT and GRE optional, but there are some that still do require it. So you'll want to look on your short list and make sure that that is done, at least in the fall before you graduate in the spring. That way, if you need to retake it, you would have the winter to be able to retake the exam. And then you'd also want to submit your applications early for any decisions that would involve a scholarship or an assistantship. Many schools will have a hard deadline for admission, but they'll have a deadline to be considered for an assistantship that will be much earlier. And so you do want to keep that in mind if that is something that you're looking to do. Go to our next slide. So you're getting ready to graduate and you've decided, I want to do OPT first before I go on to any further study, or I don't want to go on to any further study and I want to go and utilize what I've learned in this field of study, and go on and get some work experience. So OPT is going to be what we'll be looking at. So, optional practical training, or OPT, it is a 12-month post-graduation work authorization for F1 students. You would be working within your specific field of study. So, you're able to work in any type of position that is related to what you've studied. So, if you've studied engineering, you can work as an engineer for different companies or different organizations. If you have a degree in business, you can utilize what you've learned in business with a company or two companies potentially. It is a 12-month authorization for every degree level that you complete in the United States. So if you are planning to go for a bachelor's degree right now, you would get a 12-month authorization that you can apply for your bachelor's degree that you've received. And then if you go on to a master's degree after that, you would get a second 12-month authorization for your master's degree. You do have to use your OPT for the degree that level that you finished immediately after you finish that degree level. So if you don't use your bachelor's degree OPT authorization that you're eligible to apply for and go straight to a master's degree, you cannot apply for that bachelor's degree OPT after you finish that master's degree. So associate's degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, and then doctorate or PhD. There are 4 levels of authorization that you potentially could be eligible to apply for a 12-month authorization for each of those degree levels after you graduate. And for those who are in STEM designated fields, and you can ask your DSO, or as you're applying to schools, you can ask the DSO if this program that you're applying for is a STEM designated field, because there is a specific CIP code that will designate it as whether it will be eligible for this 24-month authorization. The 24-month authorization for STEM extension is issued after you initially finish your 12-month OPT authorization. So it would be a 36-month total work experience. And with STEM, you are eligible to apply for a STEM extension for 2 different STEM degrees that you've received. So if you do a bachelor's degree in computer science and apply for OPT in STEM, and then decide to go on to a master's degree in cybersecurity or bioinformatics, or maybe another master's in computer science, you'd be eligible to apply for a second STEM extension based upon that STEM designated master's degree. We'll go to the next slide. So what are the types of things that you can do for employment while on OPT? You can work part-time or full-time. You'd be authorized on your OPT to work up to full-time if you want, and full-time is defined as 20 or more hours per week. But if you do have a work experience that is not 20 hours, you are still authorized to be able to work in that part-time role. The positions can be paid or unpaid. So if you have an opportunity to be able to volunteer for a local church or a nonprofit, and you want to utilize your experiences and your skill set to give back to a community member, you are able to also volunteer, and that can count as your OPT employment as well. You can also hold multiple employers at the same time. So if you are looking to volunteer and also work full-time, you can report both of these as OPT experiences. Regular paid employment, that is the most common thing that students do while they're on OPT, but you can also do short-term contract work or work with several short-term employers. So if you are in a specific field that requires a lot of short-term contracts, especially in the early parts of your career. So if you're an electrical engineer and you've got a few short-term contracts to help set up different energy plants with smaller energy companies, you can work in those multiple employers. You would just need to report the durations of each of those contracts, and those would all be reported as employment. You can do internships, you can volunteer, and then you can also be self-employed. So if you want to open up your own company, or employ yourself out as a self-employed individual, you can do that on the initial OPT that you have. Now, when you go on to STEM extension, a few of these get limited down. When you apply for STEM extension, you have to work in a company that is e-verified, and you have to have a supervisor that can speak to your kind of goals for those 2 years of STEM extension. So things like self-employment and volunteer positions, those types of experiences, you can't do on the STEM extension, but you can do regular paid employment, an internship if the internship company is e-verified, or short-term contract work if each of those contractors can have e-verification and can speak to what you're doing for those short durations during your STEM extension. Go to the next slide. So a couple of tips as you're preparing, if you're looking at OPT as your next step after graduation, rather than going on to further study, wanting to utilize that OPT that you'd be eligible for the degree that you're currently finishing. You'll want to meet with your career services advisor every semester while you're in school, starting in semester 1. We talked a lot about that. I can't emphasize that enough. It's a free resource, and it is experts in the area of knowing what the career temperature looks like in so many different fields in the United States. That is what a career counselor is set out to do at a university. And so utilizing those experts that aren't necessarily a company, but can provide a lot of insight as to what companies are thinking and what they're feeling. A lot of career service advisors, they meet with different recruiters for different companies, and they get a gauge and a temperature, and they're able to kind of tell you, what they're seeing within your specific field. So utilize that resource the whole time that you're in school. Attend every large and small career event at your university every semester. We talked about this as well, of going and showing your resume to recruiters, even when you're not looking for an internship or a job, and get their feedback, because they're going to be very honest with you. And that feedback is going to be so instrumental in terms of shaping what your experience is, or what elective courses you choose, or what types of other experiences that you'll choose to take while you're at the university. You'll want to apply early for your OPT. So the earliest you can apply is 90 days before your program end date. So this is a month into your final semester, you'd be able to start your OPT application. Um, I always recommend that students apply early because a month into school, you're not as busy. You're not preparing final exams and things like that. But it also just gets that application into the queue, and you have um, your authorization back earlier. And so when you go into interviews with companies, you can tell them, I'm already authorized for my OPT. I'll be able to start on this date. This is when I'm authorized to start. And it doesn't create that uncertainty then for companies in terms of, well, how long will the OPT application process take? Can we hire this person and continue to bump back their date of when they can start? So it puts you in a much better spot in terms of meeting with companies as you go into your last semester. And lastly, explore more than just traditional employment, or explore more than just what conventionally people do within your field of study. So with OPT, the one piece that USC, I guess, kind of provides as direction for students is that they have to work within their field of study. But fields of study are evolving and changing so quickly. And so, a traditional computer science major may once have just been doing Java programming for an IT company. Now, computer scientists are working in short term contracts with several different companies. They are working with nonprofits and helping setting up networks. They are working, with other types of companies in terms of providing data and analytics and things like that. I had a student once who was an information systems major, and she worked on her OPT for the NFL, or the National Football League for the United States, or American football. And she provided data analysis in terms of um, who was looking at their social media and who was engaging with different aspects of their media, and providing analysis in terms of how to better reach audiences beyond just the typical audience of men in the demographic of 25 to 55. And how do we reach older men, or how do we reach women within the NFL, or things like that. And so she would analyze the data and then provide reports on the data, but was able to kind of utilize what she learned in her information systems degree, which was a combination of computers and statistical analysis, to have that OPT experience. And so there's a lot of things that you can do within OPT, and so don't just limit yourself to what conventionally students have done within your field of study. Look outside that box as well. So we'll go to our next slide. Just to give you a brief introduction to my university, we are the oldest continuously operating university in the state of Texas, second oldest in the state of Texas. We are a private Christian university, though you do not have to be Christian to attend the university. We have about 3,600 students representing 35 different countries. About 3,000 of them are undergrad and 600 are postgraduate students. And some of the programs that we're most well known for, we have one of the oldest and largest nursing schools in the state of Texas. We have a very strong pre-med and pre-medical program for physical therapy, medical school, occupational therapy. Our business and engineering computer science programs are also quite well known on the undergraduate and postgraduate side of things. We also have students who compete in the NCAA Division III League. So if you are looking at potentially coming and competing collegiately, we'd be happy to share more information about that. And all of our international students receive a scholarship, whether you are an undergraduate or a postgraduate. The level of scholarship students receive depends on their academic profile, but everyone is guaranteed at least a partial scholarship while they're studying with us. I've got my email and my WhatsApp there as well. I think my personal email is on the next slide, but if you would like to connect with us and learn more, feel free to reach out. And if you do decide that you would like to apply do mention to me over email that you attended this virtual webinar, as our gift to you, we'll waive your application fee, so it'll be free for you to get a decision from us and learn more about our university in that application process. But now we will open it up for questions.
Thank you, Rebecca, so much for the presentation. I really love that there are a lot of details that can help students understand better the CPT and the OPT. And that was actually one of the questions that we've got from one of our students before the start of the webinar, but I think you gave already a lot of details. And yes, if the student has more additional wants more additional information on that, you can definitely reach us, guys, by our email address or also Rebecca's email, as you could see that in
Let's
the
see, Alina,
presentation.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Let's see. That's a little bit better.
Okay, good. So we will move to the Q&A session. Okay, so I think one of the question which is like really important for the students to know is, how would my life look like after graduation? What should I do if I cannot decide whom would I be? How to find a better place to study? I think you can answer that by parts.
Yeah, I think we talked a bit about that, but I would just emphasize that while you're at university, there's going to be a lot of great tools and resources that schools will have for you. And also keep in mind, if you're an undergraduate student, roughly 25% of students who study in the United States will change their major within their first 2 years of study. So if you initially apply and you're applying for an engineering program and then you get there and you're like, I hate it, it's totally okay. It happens all the time. Um, Utilize that first year or so and take classes in a lot of different areas. And the way that the degrees will be structured is you will have to take like public speaking and English and social science. So if you're not sure if the major that you've applied for really kind of lands with what you want, take all of those other requirements in those first 2 years as well, and see if something else kind of reaches out to you and really speaks to you, and meet with your advisor and talk with them and see, does this look like a career outcome that's going to really fit what I'm looking for too. And if you do decide to change, you're part of the 25%. And so you're part of a pretty large group of students. So definitely don't be afraid of the fact that you might change your mind from what you originally thought. That's totally okay.
Thank you. Then the other question was, what reliable sources are available for university rankings? Actually, we had a webinar on that, but I think your opinion on that would also be interesting.
So in terms of like university rankings, and I would look at each of those and kind of look at what a school would need to do to be able to get on those lists. With some of the rankings and some of the organizations that do rankings, they require those that rank higher to pay like a fee to that organization to get that ranking. And so it doesn't feel quite as genuine when someone's having to pay someone to recognize them as a certain type of prestigious institution. What I would recommend kind of looking at is, look at some of the people that you admire most within your field, look at where they studied, and see if there's some patterns with that. So whether you're in a specific area of business that does a lot of like cosmetic marketing or something like that, go to LinkedIn and kind of see where some of the people that you admire most within that field, where did they graduate, and see if there's some patterns, or kind of make a short list from where they studied, look at those schools, look at what they teach. Some schools will also have free lectures online, which I think is another really great way to kind of look and see what, as you start building a short list, to see, you know, while this school may not necessarily be ranked high, the way that the professors are teaching is really relevant to my field right now. And that is incredibly insightful and helpful for me as I'm looking towards going into a field that's evolving very quickly.
That's a great advice. I can also say here that we know that mostly all the institutions in the US, they would review the application of the students holistically. So here I would recommend the student to do the same, review the university's profile holistically, not based only on rankings. So I think you should look at that as a whole and analyze all the criterias that you are looking for and that you are searching for, specifically when you make the list of the universities that you are interested about. Good. Then the next question, I would like to inquire whether it's possible to bring my family with me while pursuing my education in the USA on a scholarship. So we can stop on the first one and then we can move to the second part of the question.
So, you can bring family with you while you're pursuing a field of study. The family that can come with you on what's called an F2 or a J2 visa, depending on if you're an F1 or a J1, will be your spouse and your children who are under the age of, I think, 21 or maybe 18. I'd have to double check. I can't remember off the top of my head, but minor children can also come with you while you're studying. When you apply to your university is going to need a copy of the marriage certificate, birth certificate, and the passport copies of your spouse and your children. So that way they're able to issue those documents for them as well. And they would go to the embassy and apply for those visas as well. Um, so as you talk with different universities, do check with them too in terms of what resources they may have for children and for spouses while they're here. Spouse and children can study while you're in the United States, but they cannot work. So if your spouse wants to study part time at a school or go to a language school, they're able to do that. A lot of universities will have a university preschool. So if you have children that are under elementary school age, they typically will have a preschool at a discounted rate for students on campus. That way you can drop off your kids while you're going to school. And then for children who are elementary age, a lot of universities will have some resources in terms of public and private schools within the area to help connect you and find the right school for your children while they're in the United States.
And the second part of the question, I would appreciate if you can share any programs that provide scholarship opportunities.
So, in terms of finding schools that are going to have scholarship opportunities, one of your best resources is right here with Education USA. So, for a lot of us universities, when we have new scholarships or opportunities for students, we will reach out to Education USA with that information. So, they will be the best people to get started with. And then from there, you'll build out your list and see other potential schools that will have scholarship opportunities.
And me, as a representative of Education USA, I can suggest the exchange programs that are available in your countries, and you can find that on the embassy's website, on the US Embassy's website in your country. And additionally, kind of a scholarship opportunity, especially for a postgraduate degree, we can consider also the research assistantship and the teaching assistantship. But those would be considered for you. And yes, I think for the rest that you should consider for your spouse or your child, Rebecca already has specified. But
Mhm.
yes, relate to your Education USA advisor in the region. You can find the nearest Education USA center on our website. So they will give you a lot of information on that also. The next question is from a Georgian citizen, actually. What postdoctoral research opportunities are available in America for Georgian citizen?
So, most universities are going to just have postdoctoral research opportunities based upon what specific types of research that they're looking for. So, this is very much going to be specific to what are you looking to continue on with your research. Are you a biology major? Are you specialized in education or mental health counseling or things like that? And so, that will be the best place to kind of start with narrowing your search is finding those schools that are really good at what you do, and then they'll be able to provide more information about the type of research that they're doing to see if it aligns with the research that you're planning to do.
Thank you. Then another question was, I'm interested in the visa process, and my advice here, I think, would be to relate and to contact the U.S. Embassy in your country. And as Rebecca is representing the international office, I think they can also offer a lot of information on I-20, on SEVIS, and on all that. So as soon as you get your admission, I think you'll get the necessary assistance from the university also. Okay. Then the next question, what is the most effective strategy for starting job after graduation of master's?
So that starting a job strategy really starts, like we've talked about, from the very first day that you arrive in the United States, connecting with the Career Center at your university. They will provide more information about other types of things that are happening within your field. So, like, for example, at one of the institutions that I used to work for, we had a very strong cybersecurity field. And so, of study. And so we would have a cybersecurity symposium where we would bring different employers of cybersecurity to come and kind of do like a mini conference at the campus talking about trends. And it was open to the public, but a lot of our students would go as well, learn from these different cybersecurity specialists. But it was also a great networking opportunity for them to, get some cards, get some contacts, and they may not have worked after they graduated at that specific cybersecurity firm, but they were now, connected over LinkedIn. And so now they know someone who knows someone who knows someone who's a good fit for the type of work that that individual wanted to do in cybersecurity. So building that network begins at the very beginning of your field of study while you're in the US. And the Career Center is going to be the first kind of point of contact to see what are those networking opportunities, kind of like at that cybersecurity symposium where you can get some cards and talk with some people and really start conversations and connections to eventually find the job that you're going to want after graduation for your master's degree. You don't want to start looking for a job in your master's degree 3 months before you graduate. The job should be kind of finding you throughout the entire time that you're studying.
And I think we also recommend the students to start doing that, at least researching the job possibilities a year before. So, because they also have to consider the fact that they should kind of prolong their visa, or they should also consider their legal stay. So, yes, you should prepare a long time before that, before you start, I think. And one of the last questions that we've got from those who had addressed the question in advance was about the Fulbright scholarship. This is not one of the scholarships that Education USA is coordinating, but as I've mentioned before, all the exchange programs can be found on the website of the U.S. Embassy in your country. So I'm more than sure that you can find there an email address that can redirect you to the contact person. And they will answer you and all the details that you want to know about Fulbright. Okay, so we also have some questions that we've got live during this session. And one of the questions is from Nino. Is it a good practice to ask program counselor for an advice in choosing a scientific supervisor?
So you're talking about like an academic advisor in terms of finding like your thesis or dissertation supervisor, research supervisor. So if you're in a graduate program, your program counselor or program coordinator will most likely be a faculty member in your department. And so, in that case, they will be the ones who are going to kind of look at your strengths and identify the faculty member who's going to be a good kind of research partner as you're preparing your thesis or dissertation. So, this is automatically what they do because they want you to be most successful and to have a faculty member that most aligns with what you're looking for. If you're an undergraduate student and you're planning to do an undergraduate thesis, which some schools will have as an option, it's not going to be a requirement. Some schools don't offer this at all. Your academic advisor will be a good point of contact to get you started, and connect you with one or two faculty members. But then in those conversations with those faculty members, they'll be the ones to identify, am I the right fit for this undergraduate student to kind of cultivate their research experience? Or do I have a colleague in the department who's going to be better equipped to help this student with the research that they're wanting to do. So academic advisors are going to be a great guide for you. If you're not sure who to go to, they will help point you in the right direction.
Okay, thank you. The next one, also from Nino, can a student apply for full and part-time PhD programs simultaneously?
So while you're in the United States, you will have to attend courses full time as an F1. Now, for postgraduate study, for a master's or a PhD, um, full time as a grad student is going to depend on the school. So some schools it'll be 9 credit hours, some it is going to be 6. It is based upon what the university reports to financial aid as full time study at their institution. So whatever the university is reported to federal financial aid as their full time definition, that will be the full time that you would need to abide by. So that is something you can ask universities as you apply to a postgraduate program, whether it's a master's or a PhD, is whether their full time is defined as 6 or whether it's defined as 9. It's about 50-50 right now in the US. And as you go on into a PhD program, once you get into your thesis and research and dissertation portion, then you would just be doing your thesis and research dissertation. But while you're doing your coursework, you would need to be in either 6 or 9, depending on the school.
And the last one from Nino, can I apply for master or doctorate in educational leadership if I'm already a bachelor in management and a PhD in economics with a huge practical experience in education field?
It's going to depend on the school, and that's something that you're going to need to ask. Education programs and educational leadership with some schools, they want to see a bachelor's or a master's degree in education. Others just want to see that you have teaching or education experience, and some it may be a combination of the two. So before you apply to schools, do check with them and see what their requirement is, because for those that are going to want an education degree, even if you have 10 years of experience in the field of education, they are going to be limited in terms of being able to accept you based upon the conditions that they've already set in place for their degree.
Thank you. Another question from Pasha. Apologize if this was already covered, but in brief, what should international students consider when choosing a degree or field to boost job prospects and long-term career growth after graduation?
So, what should international students consider when choosing a degree or field to boost job prospects? That is a very big question, but it's
Cannot
a
do that
very good
quickly.
question. um, I would say, if you're an undergrad, meeting with the career center in your first semester, doing one of those interest surveys, like we talked about, where it'll talk about, do you like abstract thought or do you like more kind of concrete thought in your work process or your thought process? Do you like working with a group or working on your own? Do you like having set projects to do, or do you like more abstract, like we want you to kind of get this done eventually, but we're not really sure what this is yet, but we want you to figure that out. Doing that in your first semester, taking a lot of different classes in a lot of different fields that you're interested in that also meet the university's general requirements, that is going to help kind of identify your interests and what you really excel at. Because I can say that cybersecurity is a great field and has a lot of growth and things like that, but if your brain doesn't work that way, you're not going to be happy there and you're not going to do well in that. Um, but once you kind of identify what those interests are, and also meeting with the career center to kind of talk about what is the temperature for a couple of these different interests that I have. What does the kind of the careers look like? What do students do after they graduate and things like that? Both of those pieces combined of what you like to do and what the things that you like to do, what they look like, I think will help kind of identify an area that has strong job prospect, but also you have a strong prospect of excelling within that job.
I totally agree. I think the job and the program that you are mostly interested about, and if you are already prepared to choose already a program, that one would also give you a long-term career growth. So that one is the key to success for sure. And it's not depending which one is popular or which one is not that popular. I mean, it's mostly important what's interesting to you. Okay, so we are done with all the questions. Thank you so much, guys, for submitting them in advance, and thank you so much for submitting them in the chat. Rebecca, thank you for the presentation and for your participation. We really enjoyed it, and we really appreciate your expertise on the topic. And for you guys, I would just like to remind you once again that until 30th of April, you still have the chance to apply for GSAP, the program that is designed for students who want to apply for their postgraduate degree. Please scan the QR code, go on our website, and start with your application. If you have some question about the program, you can also find the email address of the coordinator of this program, which is Ainash, and she can also guide you through the process. And so I would just say goodbye to everyone. Thank you so much for being active with us in April, and stay tuned for our May webinars. Have a great